To me, Global Reach Out is inspiring.
It's connecting with God, reaching out to the world, and impacting life.
The stories that shared is so personal and it deeply impacted me.
Global Reach Out to me is reach out to the truth.
Connecting hearts, connecting lives. You're listening to Global Reach Out.
To me, Global Reach Out is inspiring.
It's connecting with God, reaching out to the world, and impacting life.
The stories that shared is so personal and it deeply impacted me.
Global Reach Out to me is reach out to the truth.
Connecting hearts, connecting lives. You're listening to Global Reach Out.
Hello friends, a very warm welcome to Global Reach Out. And thank you for staying with us on this series, Oasis of God's Grace.
Episode 7, Molders of Grace from the New Testament. The parable of a landowner in Matthew 21-16. Jesus told a parable of a landowner who went out to hire laborers for his vineyard. At 9 in the morning, the landowner hired workers at the normal daily wages. At noon, he hired a few more workers and agreed to pay them accordingly. At 3 in the afternoon, he again hired others. At 5 o'clock that evening, he hired some people who were loitering around. When evening came, he told the foreman to call the workers in and he paid them. He started with the last batch which came to work in the evening, and they were paid a full day's wage. When those who were hired earlier came to receive their pay, they expected to get more since they had worked more longer hours, but they were paid the same wages like the rest. They protested, saying, "Those people who work only 1 hour and yet you pay them just as much as you pay us when we work all day in the scorching heat." The landowner replied, "Friend, I haven't been unfair. Didn't you agree to work all day for the usual wage? Take it and go. I wanted to pay the last worker the same as you. Is it against the law for me to do what I want to do with my money? Should you be angry because I'm kind?" Like the landowner, God has the right to pour out grace upon anyone in whatever measure he chooses. We must not begrudge God when we see him pouring grace lavishly on undeserving people. The prophet Isaiah reminds us that the Lord said, "My thoughts are not your thoughts. My ways are not your ways. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts." Second example, the adulterous woman. John chapter 8, verses 1-11. One day Jesus went to the temple and began to teach. As he was speaking, the scribes and Pharisees, religious leaders of the law, brought a woman caught in the act of adultery. They made her stand in the middle to expose her act to everyone and to shame her publicly. They said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the very act of adultery. In the law, Moses has laid down that such women are to be stoned. What do you say about it?" What they were trying to do was to trap Jesus into saying something they could use against him. Instead of answering them, Jesus stooped down and wrote in the dust with his finger. We are told that the scribes and Pharisees kept demanding an answer. Finally, Jesus stood up and said, "Let whichever of you is free from sin, throw the first stone at her." Or as the New Living Translation translates, "All right, stone her, but let those who have never sinned throw the first stones." After saying that, Jesus again stooped down and wrote on the ground. Perhaps Jesus stooped down to give the accusers the opportunity to slip away quietly without embarrassing them. We are told that when they heard what he had said, one by one began leaving, and with the oldest started to leave first. Finally, only 2 people were left, Jesus and the woman. Then Jesus stood up and said, "Where are they? Has no one condemned you?" She replied, "No one." Then Jesus said, "Neither do I. Go and sin no more." Jesus practiced grace on the adulterous woman. We need to practice grace on others who sin against us. Instead of judging them, let us acknowledge we are sinners. The bottom line is, who among us can say we have no sin? Some believe they have right to pass sentence on others who have committed major sins like adultery, theft, and murder, since they themselves has committed only minor sins like cheating with parking coupons, income tax, ill-treating domestic servants, abusing their spouses, and lying. In the sight of God, a sin is a sin, regardless of the nature. Next, Jesus and the sinful woman. Luke chapter 7, 36 to 50. One day Jesus was invited by a Pharisee by name of Simon to his home for a meal. He sat down to eat. A woman who was living an immoral life heard about it and brought a beautiful jar filled with expensive perfume. She knelt behind Jesus and wept. The tears fell on his feet and she wiped them off with her hair. Then she kept kissing the feet of Jesus and putting perfume on them. When the host Simon saw what was happening, he said to himself, "This proves that Jesus is no real prophet. If God had sent him, he would know what kind of woman was touching him. She is a sinner." Jesus, instead of answering directly, told Simon a story. A man lent money to two people. He lent 500 pieces of silver to one and 50 pieces of silver to another. Both could not repay, so he finally forgave them and cancelled their debts. "Who do you suppose loved him more?" asked Jesus. Simon answered, "I suppose the one whom he cancelled the larger debt." Then Jesus said, "You are right." Then Jesus, turning to Simon, said to Simon the host, "You see this woman? When I entered the home, you didn't offer me water to wash the dust from my feet, but she washed them with her tears and wiped them with her hair. You didn't give me a kiss of greeting, but the woman has kissed my feet and again from the time I first came. You neglected the courtesy of pouring olive oil on my head, but she anointed my feet with rare perfume. I tell you, her sins, they are many, have been forgiven. So she has shown me much love. But a person who is forgiven little knows only little of love." Then Jesus said to the woman, "Your sins are forgiven." While the men at the table were talking among themselves about Jesus forgiving sins, Jesus said to the woman a second time, "Your faith has saved you. Go in peace." What a beautiful story of grace. And how did Jesus demonstrate grace? First, he allowed the woman to wash his feet knowing she was an immoral woman. He did not care what others think. Second, the most poignant part of the story is that Jesus accepted the perfume she poured on his feet, knowing well that the perfume was bought with the money from her immoral living. Jesus could have rejected and told her that he accepted the kind gesture, but could not accept the perfume which was bought with ill-gotten money. 3. Jesus forgave her sin without calling her name. Neither did he list her catalogue of sins. When Jesus said, "Your sins are forgiven, your faith has saved you, go in peace," it was an assurance and reassurance to her. She must have left the place changed and charged with joy. Certainly, that was grace in action.
We will close here today. Please stay tuned with Global Reach Out, and let's meet again next week. Goodbye.
The program is proudly presented by Global Reach Out. We welcome you to share our live enriching webcasts with family and friends through our website, global-reachout.org. Let's reach out to bless more lives together. The program is proudly presented by Global Reach Out. We welcome you to share our live enriching webcasts with family and friends through our website, global-reachout.org. Let's reach out to bless more lives together.